I was doing a bunch of comedy, but I had a bunch of car trouble during the weekend. And I guess I'll start here. Dealerships can burn in hell. How about that? Dealerships, if you own a car, you know the last place typically you want to go to is the dealership, unless you're an old person. And then in your mind, you're like, I can't trust anybody but the dealership. I need to make sure everything is factory. If you want to get bent over and effed in the A, you're going to get effed in the A on Saturday. Little South Park reference. But let me explain to you how I had a car issue. It was an exhaust issue. It was already diagnosed. I already had the code. I had the issues narrowed down, and I called my dealership. Normally, I don't even go to the dealership. I have my own mechanic. I've actually bigged him up on the podcast before. Get your own local mechanic. Trustworthy. Someone who's not going to bend you over and F you in the A on Saturday. But the reason I went to the dealership is because recently I had to go there to get my key replaced, and it actually wasn't the worst experience, other than it cost me $350 for one key. Okay, one key. They don't even give you a pair. One key, $350. Regardless, I knew I was getting rinsed for that. But the reason I decided to go back to the dealership is because a friend of mine recently had issues with their vehicle, and they typically have good interactions with their dealership. They even mentioned they were just at the dealership with a last-minute problem recently, and he was in and out within like a day or a day and a half, and it was very reasonably priced for the problem that it was. So I'm like, you know what, man? This guy's having good luck at the dealership. Why not get some more major type work done from the official source? So I call the dealership, I set up the appointment, I tell them all the stuff, and they even input it in the notes. It's like, okay, he's got it diagnosed, he's got the code, I go there, remember, exhaust problem. I pull up, I drop off the vehicle, they give me a ride back, I wait about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I get a call. And you know it's bad when anybody calls you and it's like, hey man, like the guy was sad to call me. You could tell. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And the guy's like, yeah, so the problem is this and this and this. It's going to be about $2,800. So you're going to want to pay up now or, he wasn't like that, but $3,000 essentially. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't shell that out right now. Let me call you back. Let me figure things out. Any normal person, look, I'm not a car guru, but I have decent enough understanding and knowledge of cars, and I especially know how to just look stuff up. I have the code reader. I know how to read the codes on the vehicle, and I've grown up with friends who are gearheads. So like I can maneuver my way around an engine bay, but not really. I'm not trying to flex like I know that much, but I know enough to not get rinsed. So I look around for the parts, and I can find really decent quality parts for like $800, $900. I found some cheaper, obviously not the greatest quality, but you could even find stuff in the $300-$500 range. That's not including install, right? Like the time for the mechanic, which is the most expensive part. But then I call a couple shops, or actually I started with an automotive store to see if they had the parts in stock. And then I just like, let me ask the mechanic what they would charge to do this. This is how I know someone's watching out for me, bro. Something is looking out for me. I am aligned somehow. And even when I stumble, I'm not stumbling, baby. I'm actually being I'm being positioned. That sounds crazy. That sounds crazy. If Dante was here, I would get a big old, hey, yo. The mechanic really positioned me. But anyway, so I asked the mechanic. I'm like, hey, man, I'm having these exhaust issues. I see you have the part here. I'm just wondering if I can get a quote on installation. And I'm calling like a big box store that has like a Canadian Tire, which is a big chain in Canada. I think it's like the Pep Boys in America. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. AutoZone, pretty much the same thing. And the mechanic is like, honestly, man, if you're having any type of exhaust or muffler issue, I always recommend Zorro Mufflers, who they're called. This is what the store is called. It's a family-owned business. That's what you want to hear this day and age. You barely hear it anymore. He's like, call these guys. I promise you, like, their prices and their quality and all that stuff can't be beat. So I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. My car is in the dealership, mind you, okay? And I know that if I get it fixed by them, it's at least a day for the part, and then it's probably another day. Plus, we're coming up on a holiday, so I wasn't going to see my car for at least 3 to 4 days. I had a show that night or the night after. So I call those guys, and I tell them the problem I'm having, and they're like, yeah, we do this, but we don't take appointments here at the shop. It's first come, first serve, but typically we can at least like get it looked at and let you know. And then they give me I'm like, I know you can't give me the exact price, but can you give me a rough estimate? And the guy estimated me like $900 on the phone. But he's like, I'm not looking at it. This is just me going off what you're saying. There's a chance it could be cheaper. There's a chance it could be more expensive, obviously. But at this point, I take my chances. I feel like things are on the right side with the flow of energy. So I call the friggin' dealership back, and it took me at least 20 minutes to get through to anybody. Jeez. Okay. Gave me my car. They actually rerouted me 3 times. I had to call back because it kept going to a voicemail. I'm like, bro, just give me an Uber back to the shop and let me pick up my vehicle. By the way, the diagnostic, just for them to give me the code that I already gave them that my car had, was like $200. Yo, F the dealerships, bro. F the dealerships. F them. They will literally bend you over. Because let me explain to you how I take my car immediately from the dealership down to the muffler shop. And it's a Saturday. It's a Friday. I'm lying. It's a Friday. And thankfully, it's still before noon. There was about an hour wait. That's fine. I leave. I wait. I walk around the neighborhood. They look at my car, explain to me how the mechanic brought me under my vehicle, said everything looks pretty good, man, but I could see that this is the issue, most likely. I can chop this out. He gave me 2 quotes, bro, a more expensive one and a cheaper one. He's like, if I don't have to do all this extra welding and stuff, then it's this price. If I do, then it's this price. And could you guess? What would you imagine? $2,700 to $2,900 at the dealership. What would you imagine? Maybe $2,000? Maybe $1,500? $280, bro. $280 to that dealership, bro. I hope bad things come to the people who are deciding whatever to charge. That is highway robbery. You are literally frigging rinsing people. And you know what's sad, man? I saw a lot of elderly people in that lineup when I was at the dealership bringing their cars in. Mostly everybody was over the age of like 45, 50. Are you good? Like, bro, go f*** yourself. How about that? I haven't dropped the F-bomb yet. F*** you. That is absolute bullshit. Anyways, that's my little rant on dealerships. Always ask around. Always look around. Try and find if they still exist. Do not be afraid because it's a smaller location but it's not the dealership. I don't have the actual logo that's on my car on the building too. You're nuts, bro. You're nuts. Because they even quoted me. They're like, if we do have to do the job that the dealership said they'd have, it was like $600 cheaper. That. Oh. Anyways, that's why Dante's not here. Let's keep things moving right along because I do have a few things I want to talk about. And before we get to the comedy recap, which of course is what this podcast is built for and all that good stuff.
Hey, it's Hen Dog.
Black Zeus, the podcast, season 6, featuring Black Zeus and Dante, aka Black Zeus on